Yeah, no, you're right. So here's a note from USF. Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times, does a great job. We've had him on many times with various colleges and programs in the state of Florida. The USF Board of Trustees vice chair today on a $350 million stadium. We may not be the quickest, but we do things the right way at USF. We will have water fountains in the stadium. And then, of course, there was some sort of notation about UCF, Big 12 member UCF, did not have water fountains when the bounce house opened. And Matt Baker even said, love it when there's always a little bit of trash talk. So I know that those two, who hates each other more? UCF and USF or Utah and Brigham Young?
I don't know.
I think Utah and BYU might be at the
so.
top. That one seems even more personal, but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, but also, before this got board approval, there is some concern that they don't have all the money yet.
Well, no, they're not going to just like start.
And that they don't, and they won't get it. Like, so they've got this plan. They're proved it. They don't think that there's a lot of people that don't think it'll necessarily get done.
Well, and my question is this. Okay, we know where college football is now with 65 of the autonomy 5 plus Notre Dame, right? Mm-hmm. And we know what we see with conferences either shrinking or adding. We see what's happening, what might occur in the next 5 to 10 years. Is that a smart investment? If you're UCF and you're adding more because you're now a part of the Big 12 or Houston or whoever, or your team's in the Big 12 or whoever, you could see that because you know where you are. Is that a smart investment if you still don't know if that's going to be enough down the road?
Is what a smart investment.
$350 million to play what might not be at a high level. Not that they can't be good. But
is it smart to spend $350 on a stadium if you're not going to be at the big level? Is
if
that
you're not going to play
okay.
What would be considered not Division I football, but whatever that level might be in 5 or 8 years,
non-Power 5.
Yeah. I think.
Sorry, Mike Oresco.
I think
what it's called.
I think they're at a point though where they have to. I mean, they have fallen so far behind everybody else. Just when it comes to attracting students to campus, USF and Raymond James Stadium are not that far apart, but they're not that close either. I mean, it's not, it's harder to get people there when, especially on a day you're going to have to fight traffic and go where you are. So, yeah, I think that ultimately you do need to have a stadium on campus because there's nothing about Raymond James Stadium that feels that USF plays here other than if you walk there on a Saturday and went, oh, USF plays here, I guess. I didn't know that. So you need to create that, and you need to create facilities and different things of excitement for recruits to come in there. So it's probably worth it as a long-term investment, but they are, in making that investment, obviously they did not do what UCF did, where they very intentionally said, we're going to have a plan to make ourselves Power 5 ready when that opportunity knocks. USF did not ever have that plan. And so now they're trying to play catch up, and they can, dog UCF all they want. UCF's in a power conference now and did that by looking ahead and saying, we have to be ready when the call comes.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just love the pettiness of the UCF and USF, back and forth. So I took it initially to mean like water fountains, like go visit he's talking about like just regular water fountains, like so you didn't get water in the stadium is what he's talking about, right? See, I read it and
you're
heard
talking about like one of those locker rooms that had all
like where you drink out of. That's what he's talking about.
Right.
I thought he was talking about like a lawn, like a water. I was like, okay, that's kind of a weird dig at them. Like they didn't have water fountains. I don't understand it, but okay, I'm just out of the loop there. No, he's talking about water fountains like you drink out of. So okay, now I understand it far better, and it's a better shot than just how random the other way sounded. But I think if you're, I don't know, I see USF in that Memphis category where you're regretting right now that you didn't do more of this previously. And had you done some of this previously, then maybe you aren't in a position where you're as unsure about what the future looks like and your place within that. So, it's now or never, really. I mean, if you're not going to do it now, when are you going to do it? Because it doesn't seem like the doors are widening and more of them are opening. It seems like the squeeze is only getting tighter. So if you're able to do it and fund it and, get it done, then I think that's maybe your big swing, your big cut at the plate, and you just hope that you make contact and really you hope that you hit one over the fence. But, I mean, the alternative is sitting on your hands the way you have for probably far too long, according to some members of your fan base. And, that's part of the reason why you're in the position that you're in to begin with. So sit and don't act and stay where you are and see how that serves you, or try to take a big cut and see if that can't propel you to something that's a little bit rosier and more optimistic. But, yeah, I mean, it's still a bit of a tough position whether you do or you don't. But I'm glad that USF's just trying to get something done.
Well, you have some schools. We got a break for Off the Radar, so we stay on time. We'll have some comments that Dave Aranda made, a question that I asked in a follow-up about Baylor football and NIL and his responses to both. But, if you're Memphis and you're Boise State and you're USF or whoever, and I don't know what that group, we have Jacob asked me a lot about, what if the Pac-12 doesn't have anybody leave and what happens then? What about Boise or Memphis or whatever? And everyone's on the radar, but then again, how far away does that radar circumference go?
Yeah, the problem we're cutting into my segment, so I'm fine with it.
Right,
But the problem,
as long as you know, okay.
I know we're cutting into that. So I think the problem is just the additive factor. That is what it is. There's not a lot of things you can do to increase your value, although building a brand new stadium is one of those things that you can do. It certainly raised this school's profile just across the way from us, Baylor, when they built McLean Stadium. That took them to a whole different level. So it can certainly help. Is it enough to close the gap? And this time around, if people go looking again, secure an invite, I don't know about that, because it seemed like that line is starting to get a little long. And unfortunately for Memphis or USF or schools like them, Boise, you hear about expansion, and as we know, with the Big 12, it's just kind of all over the place. It's whatever the flavor of the day is, seemingly. But with the Pac side of things, which doesn't get talked about as often because they've kept everything just so close to the vest or whatever, it's not those schools either. It's SMU and it's San Diego State, right? So, there's only so many spots and so many invites, and it feels like we're going into contraction rather than adding more and more schools, although there's the 4 in the Big 12 and there's possibly 2 coming to the Pac. But are there going to be 8, 10, 12 more invites along the way, or even 6 or 4 that are coming along? It's hard to see where that would come from. But, hey, if you don't build a stadium, then I could tell you what the answer for sure will be. If you build one, then maybe it bumps it up a few percentages.
When we come back, as he said, his segment Off the Radar is next. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental.